So, good morning, children. So, in our previous chapter, we have discussed about the introduction of our constitution and how it was framed and who are the people involved in the framing of the constitution and many such things. So, in our second chapter, so now let us proceed towards what are the features of the constitution. See, these features of the constitution have been divided into two chapters. So, in that, no, the second chapter will cover certain various important and basic features of the constitution. So in this chapter, so let us try to understand what are those salient features or very important features of our constitution. So before understanding the basic salient features of our constitution, so let us understand what is this constitution comprised of in reality. So in reality, what does this constitution includes? So the constitutional makers, they have categorized the constitution into various categories, so that in each category we can understand the rules or the regulations belonging to one particular segment. So the constitution has preamble as a part of its structure. You know what is preamble, like it is the introductory part of the constitution. And after preamble, which is the introductory page of the constitution, then the constitution is totally categorized into many parts, schedules and articles. See, these schedules, parts and everything, they are the broad way of categorization. So like if you want to understand what exactly this is, just look at the slide. See there, and these all rules and regulations which were framed by our constitutional makers, they were of different categories. So 8 committees have worked on different categories, and the rules belonging to each category were given were placed under certain schedule, and within the schedules we have different parts, and in the parts we have articles. So schedules includes parts and the parts includes the articles. So this is the way how they have categorized. You can imagine like folders. So this can be imagined like folders. Suppose you have different you have question papers, you have worksheets, you have videos, everything. So what you do with all these things, you keep everything in a different folder, and finally you give a big folder called ninth class. In the same way, the constitution has many set of things to be which are written. All these things are categorized into each different folders. So such folders are called schedules, parts and articles. So articles are the in detail descriptions of the laws and regulations which were made in our constitution. And so so this is about the basic structure of constitution. So the basic structure of constitution of India has been categorized into schedules, parts and articles. So as of now, we have 12 schedules, we have 25 parts and one preamble and 450 articles. So these data will be updating as per current year, because many new articles will be added and many new changes will be coming. Hence this numbering may change, but schedules, parts and articles are the different categorizations of the rules and regulations which are present in constitution. So proceeding towards the introduction of our constitution, that means with regard to the citizens and the provisions the citizens are having in constitution. So let us have a basic introduction. So our constitution has established a democratic society. That means in our society, people will elect their own leaders or representatives through voting process. Hence our society is a democratic society. That means majority of people decision will prevail in the country. And in our country, through the constitution, the justice is provided equally to all. So whether you may belong to a particular caste, you may belong to a different religion, or you may belong to different culturally background, you may be of any of the kind, but you will be provided justice equally in the society. and how you have provided justice and equality and without any discrimination. So that we will study now. So let us take an example of single citizenship. See, Indian constitution provides for a single citizenship. This means that all Indians, irrespective of the state, are the citizens of this country. So in our country, there is no dual citizenship. That means all the people in our country will together be called as only Indians. So we don't have any other, you know, tagline. So all people in India, whether they may belong to Andhra Pradesh, whether they may belong to Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, they were all together referred as Indians. They were not given any citizenship from the state to which they belong. Whereas if you compare United States, so there the United States has dual citizenship. That means, for example, you take a state in United States called California, and the person will have citizenship of California as well as citizenship of United States of America. So he'll be called as Californian citizen as well as American citizen. So whereas in India we don't have such kind of dual citizenship. So there must be some reason why single citizenship has been introduced by our constitutional makers in the constitution. The reason is to stop the separatist forces. What are separatist forces? They are the group of people who work against the law, who goes against the principles of constitution and always try to divide this country. All such people are called separatist forces. And to protect the country from such separatist forces, our constitution has allowed for single citizenship. See, how do single citizenship protects it? Single citizenship always gives us the feeling of unitary or unitedness. So this feeling of unitedness will always make the country to remain together or promote common brotherhood and unity among people, so that we remain as one country and citizens of one country. However, the government has made some changes to this Citizenship Act in Constitution. That changes is called amendment. Any change you bring in Constitution, it is called amendment. One such amendment was made to Citizenship Act in 2003. So according to this act, there is also provision of dual citizenship. And this dual citizenship is not for everybody. Those who have migrated to other countries after January 26, 1950, that means after the country became republic and they have migrated, okay, after this republic day in 1950, they can get, they'll be called, and if they have settled in other country after of our republic, even then they'll be given citizenship of our country as well as the citizenship which they are having in other country. So even though they enjoy dual citizenship, they are not allowed to vote in our country. So keeping an exception called having no voting power, these people who have migrated can have citizenship of the country to which they migrated as well as the citizenship of India. So we are now discussing about the salient features of constitution with related to the citizens of this country. So we have already discussed about how the constitution has given single citizenship in this country, and later proceeding towards the other salient features related to citizens or the people of this country, universal adult franchise is another feature. So what do you mean by universal adult franchise? This means that all persons or all citizens of this country who are above the age of 18 years are entitled to vote. So as we are saying that our country is a democratic and republic country, that means in our country majority people will vote and decide their representatives or governments. So in the process of electing their own governments, the constitution has provided universal adult franchise for citizens. That means with this universal adult franchise, people who are above the age of 18 years will get the right to vote, so which in turn will elect their governments. So if you look at the history of this universal adult franchise, the British government was following communal electorates, and it was a very bad practice introduced by Britishers. So the British used to make laws, every alternate years or 2 3 years, and they were called with different names. And among such laws or acts, 1919 and 1935 are very important for our constitution. We have even discussed. So here the British used to they have followed communal electorates. That means there a particular candidate belonging to a particular religion will be only allowed to contest the election. For example, if you take example, I'm just saying that take example as Madanpalli. So what the British will be doing is they will give they'll check which community or which religion is more in this area, and they will allow only people from that community only to contest as contestants, and no other person from any other community is allowed, and all the people belonging to that community will only vote. So which is a very dangerous practice followed by British to discriminate or to increase the gap between Hindus and Muslims in those days before independence in India. So the constitution has replaced such communal electorates, and it has introduced joint electorates in this place. So instead of communal electorates, that means instead of having an electorate means an area from which a person will contestant as a people's representative. So instead of having an electorate based on religion or particular caste, our constitution has adopted for joint electorates. In this joint electorate system, all the residents of a particular area will go and vote for the contestants. The contestant may belong to any caste or religion, or it doesn't matter. All the residents will go and vote. It is not similar to the communal electorate where only a particular group of religious people or community people are allowed to vote. So that was replaced by joint electorate by our constitution. And similarly, some seats are also reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people in our country. See, this feature has been added in our constitution to give participation of the communities which have been neglected for many centuries in our country. Scheduled castes, scheduled tribes who are living in a very remote corner of the country without education and without proper social background. So to uplift them politically, there are some reservations provided to them. So some seats are reserved, and to such people, all people can vote. There is no restriction that only those people belonging to that reservation category should vote. All people can vote for them, but that particular electorate or constituency is reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes to encourage their participation and to make them uplifted. So this universal adult franchise with joint electorate system is helpful in Indian politics to prevent communal harmony, to encourage communal harmony and to prevent communal politics creating dangers to the country. So here comes the fundamental rights. See, fundamental rights are also included in the salient features of the constitution, especially with related to the citizens. So what are these fundamental rights? So before knowing about these fundamental rights, so the feature called fundamental rights has been taken from American Constitution by our constitutional makers. In American Constitution, there was a reference of Bill of Rights, so which gives certain fundamental rights to the people of America. In the similar manner, our constitutional makers have taken this feature of fundamental rights from the Bill of Rights of American Constitution, and they have modified a bit and they have introduced in our constitution. And these fundamental rights are basic human rights which provide the conditions essential for all-round development of human being. By possessing these rights for every individual in this country, before they become citizens of the country, they will enjoy certain human rights. See, everybody is basically a human being. So after having certain rights as a human being, then we can proceed, certain provisions as citizens of a particular country. So to ensure that human rights and progress of an all-round development for these human beings of this country who are also citizens, these fundamental rights have been introduced in our constitution. So these rights will help for all-round development of people, as well as they also protect the people from the discrimination from the community. So within the group of people there will be a lot of differences, and due to these differences certain section of people will be suffering. To avoid such discrimination and suffering, common fundamental rights have been given to all people in this country, and so that they can be free from that discrimination. These rights are given to everybody without any distinction, like sex, religion, or any other color. You take race, person may belong to any religion, any caste, any race, any color. So he is not having any distinction with these fundamental rights. All these fundamental rights will be equal for everyone without any difference of color, race, religion, sex, or anything. And these fundamental rights also gives them the dignity and equality. So the dignity of being a human being is given to a person in this country in the form of fundamental rights. And also equality is another important factor given to everybody in this country. And such important fundamental rights are included in part 3 of Constitution of India. So we have studied in the beginning that the constitution is categorized into schedules, parts, and articles, right? So among this, part 3 of the constitution completely deals with the fundamental rights of the citizens. So in the later slide, let us discuss about what are the various categories of fundamental rights. So as we have discussed in the earlier slide that there are different categories of fundamental rights. So among these fundamental rights, let us begin with the first fundamental right called the right to equality. So the very first fundamental right guaranteed is right to equality, and these all fundamental rights are placed in ninth schedule of constitution and third part of the constitution. In the ninth schedule we have third part, and later these fundamental rights, among these fundamental rights we have the first one called right to equality, and this right to equality will be covered under articles 14 to 18. So the articles from 14 to 18 will deal about the fundamental right called right to equality. So the success of Indian democracy largely rests on right to equality of citizens. See, when all citizens are treated equally in a country, then they will be having equal power to elect their governments and vote. So all such provisions will be possible only when there is equality. So Indian democracy is successful because all people are given such equality, and the equality in terms of political, social, and economic components is very important for Indian democracy. Politically you take, or in society you take, or you take economical status of people, equality is guaranteed by our constitution. So let us see what are these articles individually, how these articles 14 to 18 are guaranteeing the fundamental right called right to equality. So equality before law. So how we get equal status before law? Article 14, it especially deals with giving equality to all citizens before law, or equality in protection by law. That means to law all people in this country are equal. Also the law in protecting the people, it has to be equal. So irrespective of the economic status, caste, color, religions, service, or sex. So you may belong to any caste, any religion, or any color. You have, any. You may be a male, you may be a female, anything. Under Article 14, the Constitution guarantees equality before law. That means all citizens are equal before this law, as well as the protection that the laws are giving to all its citizens is equal. So not only the law will treat everybody equally, also the protection that is ensured by laws will also be equal to everyone. And if anybody tries to goes against this article, then they are punishable. And coming to the Article 15. Say Article 15 prohibits discrimination on the grounds mentioned in Article 14. That means if anybody discriminates anyone based on their economic status or caste or color or religion, all such discriminations are prohibited by Article 15. So Article 14 guarantees equality before law, and Article 15 prohibits any discrimination on any religion, on caste or creed, anything. Any such discrimination is present, Article 15 will protect them. Also, for example, you take admission into educational institutions and allotment of shops in any manner. Okay, so there should be an equality followed based on a particular caste or religion. There should be no discrimination allowed. If there is a discrimination followed in any of the statuses called caste, color or religion, immediately Article 15 comes to the rescue and it helps to avoid that discrimination. And thus this Article 15 will ensure social and economic equality. So we are discussing about the fundamental rights. Among that, first fundamental right to equality. And in covering this right to equality fundamental right, we are discussing now, we have finished I think Article 14 and Article 15. So Article 14 gives us equality before law. Article 15 prohibits discrimination on any grounds. And proceeding towards the other articles like equality, like among the right to equality itself, we have finished right to equality before law. Now equality of opportunity. See, equality of opportunity is covered under Article 16. So what does this Article 16 says? It says that everybody will be provided equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters related to employment in an office under central or state government. So which means Article 16 will help the citizens to get an equal opportunity for all the members or for all the citizens of this country who are become employees in state office or central government office. So if anybody wants to become a government employee, whether under it is a state or central government, everybody has equal of opportunity. And also this Article 16 will prohibit any discrimination based on religion, caste or any caste or creed or religion, anything. So in terms of opportunity towards the government jobs, there is no discrimination based on the things which we have mentioned in Article 14 like caste, creed, religion or sex. But you may get doubt here. So when somebody is applying for a government job, still there are some sections of people in this country who are being given certain reservation. See, don't always confuse with reservation and discrimination. A reservation is never a discrimination, because the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and the backward classes, since many centuries before independence, even after independence, they were under completely not developed. To uplift those people into regular stream of society, constitution itself has given certain reservations. It is not like a discrimination with others. Okay, so don't confuse with discrimination and reservation. So under Article 16, equality of opportunity is provided, as well as to give equal opportunity to this backward sections of society. There were some reservations. The purpose of reservation is here to make them have equal opportunity even though they are neglected. So in this connection they were given OBCs were given 20% of reservation, 27%, and now 15% for scheduled castes and 7.5% for scheduled tribes. And even now, I think recently, economically backward sections were also given certain reservations by our government. So this is about Article 16, so which gives equality of opportunity, and also it ensures equality of opportunity for the backward communities by providing certain reservations. And coming to Article 17, so it deals with the abolition of untouchability. So there was a social evil in practice in India, before independence, called untouchability. Certain sections were not allowed to enter into temples. They were not, they were not allowed to do, like, behave with regularly with other people. So there were certain evils practiced with certain communities in India, and to further stop such evil practices, Article 17 was included in equality of opportunity and abolition of untouchability. And through this article, untouchability is avoided in any form. So you cannot define, no, sometimes untouchability may be practiced in many ways. So, like, in olden days, they were not allowed into temples, they were not allowed to fetch water from public wells, not allowed to use public transport system. So all these things were prohibited under Article 17. And if anybody practices untouchability in the any form, they are punished by law. So Article 16 will guarantee equality of opportunity as well as reservations to bring that backward communities to equal opportunities, and Article 17 will abolish untouchability in any form. So these are the two articles. So coming to the last article of right to equality, which is Article 18. So what does this Article 18 gives us? So Article 18 mainly abolishes all titles like Rai Sahib Khan, Khan Bahadur, Maharaja, etc. See, to ensure equality for all citizens. So in olden days, or no, prior to independence, these Maharajas and all, they were given many titles like Khan Bahadur, Sahib, Maharaja, and many such things. So these titles will always create a kind of discrimination between the citizens. So Article 18 will abolish all such titles, which were used by our, people. So by abolition of such titles, it tries to bring certain equality to all its citizens. And these titles are considered as a negation of equal status. That means like a break. Okay, so if anybody is allowed to carry with these titles called Khan Bahadur, Maharaja, and all, then it shows some kind of discrimination, that they are some high profile people or they are belonging to high status and others are less status. So this kind of discrimination may reflect. So to avoid such things, Article 18 will abolish all such titles. However, the government of India will confer certain titles such as Bharat Ratna and Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan, and many such titles. And this Article 18 will not abolish such titles conferred by government of India, because these titles are given not just because they belong to certain family, or they have certain hierarchy in history, not like that. They were given for meritorious public service. That means somebody who has done some great service to this country. You take Abdul Kalam, no, he has done a great service to the country and has been given Bharat Ratna. So such titles are not abolished under Article 18. Only titles like Maharaja, Khan Bahadur, which are just, got just by their birth or by their family, such titles are abolished, not like Bharat Ratna and Padma Shri and other things, because meritorious based titles are not like, just like, these titles like Maharaja. And the another important thing which Article 18 covers is the 42nd Amendment Act. So till now, under Article 18, we have studied abolition of these titles, and other titles like, Bharat Ratna can be retained. So all these are the, articles which are covered in right to equality. However, by the 42nd Amendment Act in 1976, so amendment means already having certain amendment means bringing a change in the provision of constitution. So by 42nd change in the constitution in 1976, right to equality has been restricted to a particular level. So in the implementation of the directive principles, so what are directive principles? They are the guidelines given by constitution for the governments to look after the welfare of people. So in implementation of that directive principles by the government, in a certain manner, this right to equality can be restricted, and a person cannot go to court, that his right to equality has been restricted. If the government is restricting the right to equality of a person covered under these articles 14 to 18 based on the directive principles, then nobody can go to court. So in implementation of welfare programs, see, welfare programs will ensure like welfare for large number of people. So in such a benefit of large number of people, there might be certain a blockage or stoppage to right to equality, and such right to restriction to right to equality is allowed in the implementation of directive principles. That means for the common benefit of many people, if there is some restriction to equality of few people, then it is accepted. So 42nd Amendment Act has brought such restriction on right to equality that is covered under articles 14 to 18.